Use USDA purchasing power to support healthy food and independent, sustainable farmers.
Yep.
So,
Well, we talked a little bit about the money. We have several points about USDA currently purchases commodities. So USDA, if the market in beef or somewhere is going down, USDA can step in and prop up that market by buying on the market. But unfortunately, they're buying from the very largest meat packers and ignoring the smaller ones that for regenerative ag production of livestock. They just go out to the big ones like a JBS and purchase up a bunch of meat. We're suggesting that they should rethink their policy and look at using that procurement tool along with DOD's Fresh program. We use those tools to help support local, regional, regenerative, organic production of food to include livestock.
okay. Support healthy school meals by investing in real kitchens and staff training so that children are not dependent on ultra-processed foods. Boy, I remember the school meals when I was a kid. It was like pizza, really greasy pizza. That's what they fed us. And, so you're saying instead, let's start. And again, in Europe, they feed the kids totally different school lunches, healthy foods, real foods. And we are giving our kids these ultra processed meals. Again, a lot of it because it's got to store for a really long time, right? There's a big emphasis. I think what's kind of converted us over. Nobody was thinking, let's just pump. Maybe the chemical makers were, but most people when we kind of transitioned into this sort of we're eating a lot of chemicals and preservative society, it's really been driven by, we have to store food for a longer period of time, right? We don't want it to rot. We don't want it to go to waste. And so there's this kind of motivation by the average person to just think it's got to store. So we need to pump it full of processing and chemicals. Yeah. Maybe the chemical makers were like, hey, let's tell them it'll store longer if you buy our chemicals. Like, sure, they had their money motivation. But the average motivation, I think, was we just don't want the food to rot. We need to be able to use it. We can't, we're tight on money, can't let the food waste. So
yeah, well, here's how we came about, though. So we began to think big was better in this country, and we supported programs like I've talked about in agriculture, looking worldwide, right? World market.
Yeah.
So we, through our antitrust laws, we chose not to enforce them. And so we allowed food companies, right now it's an illusion you have any choice, just a handful you can go to farmaction.us and look at the agricultural concentration hub and just see how few companies control our agriculture and food. So a handful of companies. So they have a processing area 1,500 miles away, whereas used to be we had regional processing and local processing.
Yeah.
Local produce. We had, I had in my little hometown of 10,000 people, we had 2 meat packers. You could buy one hot dog or the other hot dog. It wasn't filled with preservatives. Every week they stocked the shelves. So as we went to big, companies had to find ways to increase shelf life.
Mm-hmm. And
then that meant chemicals.
Yeah.
And now you're shipping them all the way from another country, importing. You got to laden them with chemicals. They won't last in that shipping container if you haven't sprayed them down.
Yeah.
So what we're saying in this document and what we recognize is that, one, we need to start building the infrastructure, encouraging the farmers to raise foods locally and regionally. And in this particular item, right now it's heat and eat. They pop those darn trays into a heating system and a kid walks by and it's put the slop on and it's full of chemicals. Yeah. But I don't have no one, and we've the infrastructure in a school to actually cook a healthy food. So if we want to buy from the local farmers, somebody's got to be able to cook it. Right now, the schools aren't set up to cook it. So again, we've thought through this. We're working with MAHA and other groups. we have to help rebuild and recognize we have to rebuild that infrastructure for this type of program to work and for our kids to have access to healthy foods.
Yeah. Creates jobs too. So, I mean, it's a win-win in a
That's
lot of
right.
ways. I could see a lot of grandmas that are retired that still don't want to sit around doing nothing. That's why I see like all the Walmart greeters. They're just, this person was just bored out of their mind sitting at home watching TV, and they're like, I'm going to go be a Walmart greeter. I'm just going to go do something.
Get paid to see my neighbors.
Yeah, just something. So, I mean, I could see a lot of women being like, I got to go, or men and women like that are saying, I'm going to go and become a school cook, because it'll feed the kids. Like, I could definitely see, or whoever. I mean, it's a good job for anybody.
In the rural America, on that point, Kim, but in rural America, your school is oftentimes your largest employer.
Yeah.
So growing staff there actually increase wealth at the local level. I'm absolutely agreeing with you.
Yeah. Reform checkoff programs so funds don't flow to big ag lobbyists.
Yeah, I hit on this earlier in our conversation. Checkoff programs are one in which every time I sell something, I pay into. The government mandates I pay. It equals $1 billion a year in a tax, and kind of an excise tax on farmers. Unfortunately, that $1 billion, instead of going for the purposes it was originally intended, had been co-opted by these big trade and lobbying organizations. So they get to carry around the brand that they represent all the farmers, where in fact they don't, simply because they get checkoff funds. And then they use that money to encourage the continuation of this failed system. Because the more you raise, the more checkoff funds, the more they have to lobby Congress. And it's just a never-ending system. We're saying, let's cut them loose. Let's don't feed the lobbyists who are for the failed system any more resources. Let's make sure this money goes for the purposes it was designed, and nobody that lobbies can get $1.
What was it designed for? I mean, this is an extra tax.
Promotion and research on a particular commodity. So you've heard of beef, it's what's for dinner, got milk, pork, the other white meat. Those are just 3 slogans. Those are checkoff funded campaigns to increase market for the particular commodity that it's advertising for, and then to do basic applied research on animal health or on crop health. So that was what it was originally designed for.
Okay.
And it's off the rails right now.
I don't even think you should have that at all. I mean, I don't even know why there's this extra tax on farmers at all. It's, the government's reasoning could be, well, we got to pay for these. No, you're the government. Your job is, if you want to promote people eating healthy because it's good for the country, it's a matter of national security, then you should advertise for people to eat healthy. Don't put it on the farmers and make them pay for it. You should pay for it. And not only that, but if you want to do research for, I mean, this is a matter of national security. And look, the government finds a million ways to spend $1 trillion on defense. This should be an aspect of defense. You have to feed people. I mean, if you want a healthy population that can defend itself, even as a matter of national security, as a matter of people need food, they need to be healthy. So why can't they just take some of that $1 trillion defense budget and stick it towards this rather than putting it on the backs of farmers?
Well, there's a lot of folks agree with you. I'll give a great shout out to a senator that we work with, U.S. Senator Mike Lee. Senator Lee would love to have an intrusion into the market. A lot of reasons he believes the checkoff program is obsolete and needs to be ousted. He is working, though, just to reform it, to at least make it better. It's a big lift to to take on $1 billion, just being honest, being pragmatic.
Right.
The first thing is, for this plan with MAHA and Healthy Foods, we just need them not to use it to lobby. We need to get it out of their hands.
Right.
We can have the debate whether or not it even makes sense. Trust me, when I see the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, 70% of their budget comes from my checkoff funds. Every time the government takes $1 out of my check, it torques me off because they've never helped me. So I'm with you. I'm not saying that, but right now we're trying to stay very focused on what supports a healthier food system and keeping them from lobbying It's called the Off Act. Senator Lee's been a leader for a number of years, and along with Senator Booker. So a very strong bipartisan effort between the two senators.
I was even going to bring that up, with Democrats, that Booker seems to be very interested. Cory Booker seems very interested in healthy food. And there is a real opportunity there for really working bipartisan on healthy food, because I do think that there are some Democrats who are champions of this. As long as they could keep their heads straight and not be like, Trump and Maha, and so therefore no. As long as we can get them to just automatically not throw things away. Ensure relief programs. This is the final point on the petition. Again, everybody can sign this. The link is down below. Ensure relief programs support farmers growing healthy food, not just commodity producers and chemical input suppliers. Yeah, so that's what we were talking about.
A lot about that.
Yeah.
So I don't want to repeat myself, but it's insane that that fruits and vegetables, they call them specialty crops in the government in the bill.
Okay.
Specialty crops. So yeah, and it's just a sin that they get 4%, about 4% of all the subsidies. We're talking about 28 to $30 billion a year, a $10.5 billion bailout last December, and they're talking about another 15 billion or more this time. They put 67 billion in the big beautiful bill, and our food gets 4%. So that's what this point is about. Let's start assisting farmers transitioning and growing food for America that's healthy and safe for our kids.
Yeah.
That's what this petition's about. We hope everybody will sign it and help us send that message to Secretary Brooke Rollins.
Well, I think a lot of people will sign this petition right now. I know I'm going to sign it as soon as we're done with this conversation, because this is extremely food and water, guys. That's like the basics of what we need to live over anything else. Food and water, and so we clearly have a real issue. We clearly have a problem, and just not just with the chemicals and the unhealthy food, which there's been a lot of focus on that, which is great, but also on the fact that, like you said, we're importing a ton of our food. Most of our vegetables and fruits are being imported in. We're no longer growing our own food. That's then causing the chemicals. It's like adding to that problem. But also just a matter of national security. I mean, we just cannot. My God, it's already. I think COVID really painted the picture that we have a real crisis for getting rid of manufacturing. I mean, if there was ever an argument for bringing manufacturing back, onshoring it in America, COVID, I think, really showed that. But I mean, food especially. I could do without shoelaces being manufactured in the United States. They should be. But I could, but food, you can't live without food. I can live without shoes, at the end of the day. So this is the number one most important thing. And it should be the number one most important thing for everybody. Food, water, keeping it clean, keeping it healthy, keeping it available, and not putting ourselves in a position of, could you imagine, a national security crisis, just anything happens, a natural disaster and our food supply chain goes down because we can't import food, or there's a war or whatever. It could be anything. An asteroid could hit the earth and take out part of the agriculture of some of the areas that, and here we are just starving away because we don't have our infrastructure. It's just insane.
Right. It is. And the country came together when it recognized in COVID. I'll use this as an example because we're hoping people can find common ground. And it's more, there's more political dynamics and drama today than back when COVID was. But in a bipartisan way, folks answered the need for the chips, right? To manufacture chips and to bring that back to the U.S. We couldn't even manufacture a car because we depended on China, mostly China, for our chips, for our computers and our automobiles and everything else. The country came together, recognized it, and came together. This issue should resonate at least as much as a chip, we would think, because it is food, like you described. And that's what we're asking folks to do. Let's put down our sabers on other issues. This is a crisis. Farmers are in a crisis state. There's going to be a bailout for the soybean farmers because of a trade war. Let's have this conversation and let's really dig in and begin to transition to healthy foods for raised here in this country on a local, regional basis with organic, regenerative, and other soil health practices that leads us to healthy kids.
One last question I want to ask you about this is with regulation, because one of the things that I know a lot of people in the comments are going to say this, and it is, well, what we really just need to do is get rid of regulation. Like, that's the issue. And a lot of people believe that. They think that if you just, and maybe it's true, and that's why I'm asking you, people just believe it's government intrusion, government regulation, if we just went back to a truly free market or whatever, that would solve this problem. Do you think that's true?
I think that in many industries and sectors in agriculture, it's overregulated. I think we're looking at legislation, working with Congressman Massey, for instance, on the Prime Act, to begin to peel back some of the heavy-handed regulations in meat packing, right? We're looking at looking at legislation that would allow for on-farm slaughter of animals. We believe that on that scale and within that industry, they're overregulated. And those that have that comment would be right. If we're looking at JBS, the largest meat producer, which produces 1 million pounds of hamburger in a big vat coming in from 6 or 7 countries, and throws that all in one and have had recall after recall in their history. Sometimes you need some regulations because you can't trust the actor.
Right.
That's not true at the local, state level, and so we would agree that regulation is good. Also, we believe there ought to be safeguards in the market. The marketplace needs safeguards. The antitrust laws of this country could be easily said to be regulations, but big is not better. Big has gotten us to this horrible place that we are. And we would push back a little bit and say, let's at least think about, do we need to have strong antitrust enforcement so that big doesn't dominate our food systems to such a degree that all of us are getting sicker and farmers, 60 of them a day, are going out of business.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're saying smart regulation is what we need, not necessarily more, not necessarily less, maybe in some areas more, maybe in some areas less, but it needs to be smart, and it's just not smart.
The thing, I was an elected official at one time at a state level, and the thing I learned real quick was, who wants the regulations? It's the big folks. Many regulations have been passed in this country at the federal and state level by the largest manufacturer or whatever, in whatever sector, and it's a tool they use to drive the small folks out of.
Yeah.
So those that are opposed to regulation are exactly right. We need to look at those and say, okay, because most of them go too far. We need to back them up to where they truly are the safeguard to the public.
Yeah.
And let the other ones free on the more local, state level basis.
Yeah.
And we are strong supporters of Congressman Massey's bill of the Prime Act. We think there's work going on farm slaughter. Those are the ways we need to think about it and be smart about the regulations. But to let JBS just go free, isn't something we could support.
Well, I don't really want to, and I mean, especially when it comes to food and meats and things like, I don't want to die and then have people say, well, it was free market, so sorry about your luck, I'd like that to be a bit safer,
Yeah.
Okay. Joe, go ahead.
When you can know your farmer, you have a sense of trust with that, or know your local. If we restored local and regional meat processing, you can know those folks. And so there is a more of a trust that's built, and you can put eyes on it. But when it's thousands of miles away, you can't even put your eyes on it. And that's when we need to think about regulating their acts.
I also think that Americans' eyes would pop out of their head and their tongues would fall out of their mouths if they tasted food that was actually grown locally. We're just so used to eating food that's been processed and brought in from so far away that when you actually eat food that is local and you taste it and it's so different, the flavors and everything. I mean, their tongues will fall out of their heads. It'll be great. And that's what we need. We need to go back to having
the taste of a vine ripened tomato compared to the one you buy that was shipped in from some faraway place. There's no comparison.
No, it's totally different. It's totally different. One other thing, Joe, I do have to say, I know we started off this conversation by saying that farming is, you said 60 farms are going away a day. These are pretty dismal numbers. I will say that I do think that there is, and I even told my story of my family coming from farms, and I loved going to the farm and visiting, and I don't have that anymore, which is sad, which is really too bad because it was such a great part of my childhood. But I will say that there is a renewed interest in farming. I am seeing this with the younger generation, with people my age and younger, a big renewed interest in farming. A lot of people have a dream. A lot of young people living in cities have a dream of buying a farm. I mean, that's what. So I think that if the government, but a lot of people don't know how to farm. I mean, I don't know how to farm because my grandfather didn't teach me. I learned some things here and there just in conversations with family. You pick things up that are said, and my grandfather grew the best tomatoes ever. But I don't know how to do it. So there needs to be programs to train people how to farm. The people that have these dreams of I just want to go out and own acreages. I mean, it used to be my dad's generation, his dad's generation. I'm going to go to the city now, and I'm not going to do the family farm thing anymore. I'm going to go to the city and be a big city wig, right? But now all the city people are like, I just want to own a farm. I just want to get out in the middle of nowhere and own acres and have a farm.
Right. No, absolutely. That's why I was saying earlier, there's understand your family story, understand the plight of a family, why they make a decision to sell the family farm. But there is a long line of folks in America today that want to farm.
Yeah.
It's being able to access that. You brought up the issue of technical assistance, training, and understanding.
It's not easy to farm. I mean, you need, it's not like gardening, just simple.
Yeah. One of our requests is to restore funding for the regional business centers in the Department of Agriculture that were cut. There are training programs for farmers and to increase that funding through extension, co-op programs through the land grant institutions. But you're exactly right. Just like we need to train our folks in schools how to cook healthy meals again, we need to also help teach the next generation of farmers who care about raising food, healthy food for us and our children. We need to provide them that infrastructure.
Yeah.
If they're there. And some folks will say, I've been a soybean farmer all my life. I'm just not going to do that. Then, I respect that. But let's open the doorway for those that would require that land in the future to be able to to move into the healthy foods, transition that farm into these programs. Though that's how government needs to be thinking about it. We think this is a holistic approach. We tried to cover the issues that really could bring it about in the petition. And we really hope folks will sign on and let their voice be heard, because the lobbyists are there and they're well funded with some of my money. So I'd really appreciate the help as an American farmer to sign that petition.
Well, this is the first step. I mean, like I said, I know probably honestly 15 to 20% of my friends right now, if they were given the opportunity to become farmers, would do it. And they would genuinely go and become farmers. But if they would have to have access to the land, they would have to have the right loans in order to be able to buy the land, right? And that's got to be assisted. They'd need the education, the knowledge, all of that. But they would totally sign up and do it. But the first step, I mean, obviously, we can't even get to that if the current landscape for farming isn't set up for this. And so step one is this, what you're doing at Farm Action, this petition, getting the administration on board, and not only this administration, the next administration, right? It's got to be an American project, not just an administration project, an American project. And once we get these changes made, then maybe we will see a renewed resurgence of people wanting. I'm just telling you, so many people, they're so sick of the city. They just want to go out and farm. And good for them.
Farmers like me and my neighbors, would just as soon maybe not sell out, right? When we get to that retirement age, if our kids don't want to, and, would be excited about allowing access. But I will tell you, don't build it until these structural changes are implemented. So if they want to come to the farm, engage in this, because they need the support so they can get the loans, so they can access the land and the training and the education. And that's what we're about. We have a long vision, but it has to start now. This is the time. I'm excited because there's a crisis. I am a farmer, and it shakes me up a little bit to know we're going to go through this. But this kind of a crisis is so deep and hurts farmers so much that it is time to interject new thought and a new direction. And I hope those farmers are more open to that than they have been in the past.
Joe, thank you again for being on the show and explaining this. This was a really great conversation. And I think a lot of people, I think many of us are now more aware of what the problem is, what the solutions can be. People that want to learn more, all you got to do is head to farmaction.us. This is, to me, I mean, like I said, food and water, guys. I mean, we literally can live with anything without everything. We cannot live without food and water. It's just part of biology. So this is the most important issue of our day, really, is food. And so we got to get on this. So the petition, the link is down below to the petition and to just the general site of farmaction.us. Is there anywhere else people should go, or is that, I think, what else should people do?
I think, well, one, I think folks ought to go to farmaction.us. I think they ought to become informed. If you're not a member, I know people don't like belonging to things as much today as they used to, but if you're not a member of an organization that has healthy foods as their mission, join it. Welcome over at farmaction.us. We have a local leaders program, but it could be right there in your hometown. Get engaged, get organized. That's how we will push back against corporate lobbyists in the Capitol that have billions of dollars to continue this failed system of agriculture.
Joe Maxwell, thank you again for being here. Really appreciate your time and all the work that you're doing to try to make America healthy again and get our food supply healthy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kim. Great being on.
Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iverson Show, which you can catch Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. It is free for you to watch. Again, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, KimIversonShow.com. See you there.